guys, today I'm going to show you how I do my Arwen makeup. First, I start by applying an even coat of foundation. I do this to even out my skin tone and conceal any spots or discoloration. I don't put it on too heavy because I want it to look more natural. Then I take an off-white powder and apply it to the center of my face under my eyes, and above my lip, on my chin, and around my mouth, down my nose, on my forehead, my eyelids, and generally down the center of my face. It's very subtle and I blend it in with a powder foundation. Now I'm going to contour my face to redefine my features. First, I start with my cheekbones, temples, and the sides of my face to slim my face down and make it look longer. My face is wider than Arwen's and not as long, so darkening the sides with contour gives an illusion that my face is slimmer and longer. I also want to reshape my nose a bit. First, I start under my nose to make it look a little shorter. She has a very beautiful nose, and I think the best way I could describe it is it kind of looks like a bunny rabbit. It's not too slim, but not too wide. But it's also pretty straight, so I contour straight down the sides of my nose. I also dust over the middle of my nose to make it look a bit more deep set. I add a little line over the tip of my nose to give it a button nose effect. And I blend that all in. Next, I take some blush from the Sedona Lace palette, and I dust it over my cheeks and blend it in. Then I take some light powder and apply it under my eyebrow. Then I go back in with some brown eyeliner and define my brows. Her eyebrows are pretty straight with a slight curve, but not a sharp arch. They're fuller towards the center and slimmer towards the end. They also aren't super full, but not super thin either. And despite her having very dark brown hair, her eyebrows aren't as dark. Then I apply a natural pinky beige eyeshadow over my eyelids and wing it out to the ends of my eyebrows. I also dust it under my eyes a bit as well. Next, I take some light powder and brush it down the center of my nose and between my eyebrows and blend it in. I also put it on the sides of my nose and above my nostrils to give it a softer bunny effect. And I dust it on the tip of my nose as well. And I blend it in. Then I add some more contour under my nose to make it look a little shorter. Next, I take some white eyeshadow from Surreal Makeup and apply it under my eyebrows and over the crease of my eyes. My eyes are more deep set than Arwen's, so I bring them forward by brightening them up a bit. I also add some contour to the sides of my eyes and drag it out to create a shadow that makes my eyelids look more puffy. I also add some shadow on my temples and between my eyebrows. Next, for the lips. I fill in my lips with a lip stain. And I overdraw my upper lip quite a bit. After applying the lip stain, I go over that with some lip liner. Arwen's upper lip is pretty full and her bottom lip is smaller. My lips are the opposite, so I overdraw my upper lip and outline my lower lip in my skin tone color to make it look smaller. I also dot some dark brown eyeliner to the corners of my mouth. Then to soften the pink a little bit, I pat on some beige eyeshadow. I take the contour again and add it down the sides of my face to slim it out even more. Then I take the white eyeshadow from Surreal Makeup again and line right under my lower lash line. This brightens the eyes and makes them look a little puffier. I also add a highlight to the tip of my nose, and I define my Cupid's bow. Then I use a light brown liner pencil that I use for the eyebrows and draw a thin line under my lower eyelid. Before I move on to the eyeliner, I'm going to put in my lenses. I got these colored contact lenses from Unique, so I will add a link in the description. I got them in a gray color because gray over dark eyes gives a lighter blue effect, but if you want them to be more blue, I recommend getting them in a blue shade instead. I use these contacts for so many different costumes, so I figured it would work for this too. Next, I take a black liquid eyeliner and draw a thin line in my upper lash line. I dragged it out slightly down past my eye. This makes your eyes look bigger and longer. Then I take a deep brown eyeshadow and pat it on under the corner of the liner to create a shadow wing. And I blend it in. Next, I curl my eyelashes and apply a generous amount of mascara to my upper lashes. And I apply a tiny bit on the lower lashes and use my fingers to pick off any clumps. Next, I take my hair and separate it into two sections and wrap it around my head in opposite directions. I put it in place and put on 2 wig caps to compress it. Before I put on my wig, I put on my ears so I don't accidentally glue the hair to my ears as well. I found these ears for really cheap on eBay or Amazon. And then I painted them to match my skin tone with acrylic craft paint. I will add a link in the description. Now before I put on the wig, I'm going to change into the costume. I got this beautiful dress from Cosplay Sky, but I'll get more into that later. I found this wig on Amazon and it was really cheap and I added the waves to it. I'll show you how I do that later in this video. Once I put on the wig, I take 2 sections from the front and clip it in the back. And I leave some hair hanging down in front of my ears. I also made this beautiful crown, and I'll let you know how I did that later on in this video. I just put it on and I'm done with the makeup look. Now let me show you how I styled the wig and made the crown. For the wig, I found this very affordable long brown wig on Amazon. It was a great color and had really nice curly waves at the end, but I wanted the waves to be more consistent and higher on the head. I did this by brushing out any tangles and separating the hair into 2 sections. I took each section and tightly braided it from the top all the way down to the ends. Then secured it with a hairband. Once I braided both sides, I boiled a pot of water and carefully dipped the wig into it. You want to make sure that the fibers get fully saturated and heated up, but you don't want to leave it in too long and let it sit at the bottom because it could burn. So keep it moving in the water and feel free to use the spoon so you don't accidentally burn your hand. Then I laid it out on a towel and let it dry. Once it's dry, I take out the braid. And I run my fingers through the hair to loosen it. And then you have pretty consistent waves throughout the wig. Unfortunately, I don't have much footage of the crown since it was a big experiment. At first, I had no idea how to make it. I ended up sketching on paper the design I wanted and holding it around my head to test the size. Then I traced that design onto poster board, and I glued it all together with hot glue. Then I also wrapped some wire in certain areas. This helped to add more details while also making the poster board more firm. Then I added a few coats of silver spray paint to it, and I let it dry. While that was drying, I took some threads and strung thousands of beads. All I did was take some thread, run it through a needle, and tie a knot at the end of the strand. Then I put one bead on at a time until I had lots of strings of these silver beads. It was very time consuming, but not hard, so just put on a movie or some YouTube videos and relax while you do it. After I was done with all the strands of beads, I attached them to the crown. I was shocked with how pretty it was despite it being so inexpensive to make. I was also really happy with the effects of the waves in the hair since it gave it a much more natural texture. Now for the dress. I got this beautiful dress from Cosplay Sky. The fabric is great and I'm happy with the color and it's very fun to wear. It's also well made, but I wanted to make some modifications to personalize it a bit and make it more accurate. I really didn't love the trim that the dress originally had. It just looked kinda cheap, and while I love when things are cheap, I don't necessarily love when it's cheap looking. But that's an easy fix, so I just use a knife or seam ripper and carefully cut off the trim. Then I take some cheap trim of my own and sew it down instead. Then I take some pretty sparkly silver trims and define the edges with it. I did this to the sleeves as well. As you can see, it already looks a lot nicer. The color of the trims is off, but no worries, nothing a little paint can't fix. I mix the paint into the color I want and carefully brush it over the trim to change the shade. I use a light pastel green for the top row of the trim and dole out the color with some white. And on the second row, I add some silver paint. I also add the pastel green to the sleeves as well because I didn't like the look of the white lace. Next, I take some glittery paint and apply patterns onto the lace. I also press on some of those silver beads. And I use super glue to glue down some crystals. This just adds extra sparkle to the trim and it looks so much prettier and more expensive. And that's pretty much it for the dress. Here you can see the trim and lace after the modifications I made. I'm very happy with the results. It's so cool how a little bit of alterations and personal touches could really enhance a store-bought costume. And although I know I could have sewn this dress pretty easily myself, I was struggling to find the right fabric, and to be honest, the fabric would have cost more to make it than buy it already made. So I was able to save time and money. I love fantasy films and elves, so I definitely enjoyed wearing this costume. I'll also have a legless tutorial if you want to check out some more Lord of the Rings costume looks. I will add a bunch of helpful links in the description, so be sure to check it out. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Even if you're not making an Arwen costume, maybe there's some tips and tricks you learned that you can apply to a different costume. I have a bunch of other cosplay tutorials on my channel, so feel free to go check those out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye!